Hey and welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. So you may have seen Module 28 brings with it a new rank to enchantments, Celestial, upgrading them another rank from just Mythic. Now this is not just limited to your basic enchantments or even your bonus enchantments, but also your combat enchantments. So we're going to cover all of the combat enchantments that we can currently get in the game and compare the exact upgrade. What is the change that's actually occurring with these? How much are they increasing in benefit? And thus potentially we might run into meta changes. There are some pretty stock standard combat enchantments we always use, and thus leaving the rest to the side. But do any of these upgrades make the other ones more viable or not? Let's have a look. So we start out with the lightning flash, again going from mythic to celestial. Straight away you see the 1000 item level increase. That's the same across all the enchantments, and you also see the equip bonus increases damage by 10%, going to 12%. This is multiplicative damage, so it'll actually be pretty impactful. It doesn't get, say, diminished the more other damage bonuses you have, as it multiplies completely separately. But then we see in the big text here, the second bonus, which gives you a lot of stats, that's going from 2.5% per stack to 3.6% per stack. That's pretty massive. You can again get 3 of those stacks. So it goes from a combat enchantment, which would give 7.5% accuracy and crit strike, to now 10.8% accuracy and crit strike. That is huge. It's a kind of crazy amount for just a combat enchantment, but that's how they seem to want to be doing it. It will make it an awful lot easier to cap stats, even more so, giving you over 3% increase to those two statistics. Now all those combat enchantments are going to be in this document. You can read through it yourself. We're also going to cover them in this video here. So the next up is the Poison Thorn, and this is simply a magnitude damaging combat enchantment. Now it still has the increased damage by 10% going up to 12%, and then its benefit when you use an at-will encounter or daily power, you'll cause the enemy to take 30 magnitude as damage after 4 seconds. So you basically add 30 magnitude to all of your attacks. This can be particularly powerful when you're, say, on a fast hitting class where you have lots of those little hits, and this can add to each of them. But for more slower hitting classes, this just falls behind a ton. And I don't really think a 5 magnitude increase going from 25 to 30 is going to do much to make this very competitive. Not versus the lightning flash. Going to the cursed burn, this also has just a magnitude increase and the 10% to 12% damage increase. But this one does the damage over time, so it works for any damage to your class. Even if you have slow hits, when you hit them, you're just going to cause them to burn every 1 second for 3 seconds. So as long as you're attacking every 3 seconds, you have this damage over time. And if they're already affected by this, they do have the 10% chance to explode and deal some extra damage. Decent, but still a very small magnitude increase from 7.5 to 9, and then the 15 magnitude to 18 magnitude. I also don't see is it going to be that important, but we'll have to see what new gear we're getting, whether we can give up, say, the lightning flash and go back to a damage over time combat enchantment. Then we will again be looking at the viability of those two, Poison Thorn and Cursed Burn. So just be aware of that, and yeah, hold out onto these enchantments if you say have them. The prices are probably pretty low still. Otherwise, we move to the wild card, which got introduced with Menza Branson, and unfortunately, it's still going to be pretty bad. Again, it still gets the base 10% to 12% damage increase, and then it goes from 1% per enemy target to 1.2%. So you're going from a total of 5% to 6%. Yeah, not much. Then we go to the more defensive orientated combat enchantments. We have the Refulgent Fortification. Now this one is particularly useful for a healer, but it just has bonus damage reduction rather than, say, healing as you would think a healer would get. And just note that with Module 28, the new campaign, there will be an actual dedicated healer combat enchantment coming in the enchantment section called the Divine Aegis. So I would recommend holding out for this one if you are a healer and just want to be boosting your overall heals. Again, you can still use the Lightning Flash or this one for a bit of support, but they won't be as good in terms of just boosting all your heals, because again, you'll get that raw healing boost from the bonus total outgoing healing, and then having this extra effect to apply shields to your targets, which should stack with other player shields. I'll cover that new enchantment in a dedicated video when I can actually get my hands on it, as it is unfortunately locked behind a milestone of reaching the 4th one. So that'll be in, say, 2 weeks' time. But Refulgent Fortification is going from a 10% damage reduction to 12% damage reduction, giving you also 18% movement speed instead of 15, and 6% damage reduction instead of 5. So all around pretty useful little buffs there that will help. It can come in clutch, and also the movement speed is very nice. We move on though to Fortified Nature, this being the stat increasing enchantment that tanks can use, and my oh my, it's getting even more powerful. The amount of stats it gives is a bit crazy, but it's only really good if you take a lot of damage hits over time. So this had 3% increase to your defense, awareness, and deflect for that 3 seconds, and stacking up to 5 times. So it could give you 15% of each of those 3 stats. Absolutely massive. Now this is getting bumped up even further to 3.6% per stack. So what you're going to see is now you can get up to 18% per stat. It's a bit crazy. A combat enchantment giving you 54% total statistics, but it's not exactly that reliable. Again, the only time you can really rely on it is if you take, say, bleed damage. Otherwise, the heal effect will go to 6% up from 5%, which is pretty meaningless. Now the other good defensive enchantment that tanks use is Flash Freeze, and this is getting some improvements. Again, that 10% to 12% on the damage reduction, but then you will also be able to reduce the damage the enemy deals from 5% to 6%. Nothing else changes though, unfortunately. Still only a 20% chance, and otherwise the slow effect going from 20% to 24%. Unfortunately, the chance still stays at 20%, and the duration is still only 8 seconds. But it does mean you can go from a 15% damage reduction to now a total 18% damage reduction. Moving on to the Soul Shield, they didn't really do a lot here. So again, they increased to the damage reduction, but now it's every 50 seconds instead of 60 seconds. That's it. They aren't giving you, say, shield when you get revived, which, to be honest, they could have done instead of reducing the cooldown. Then we go to Living Hex, which I still think is a bit pointless, but it will be able to reflect up to 1.8% of the total damage you take. Still capped at only 50,000 damage and the 15-second cooldown. Very minor tweaks there, and debatable at all whether this enchantment is even worth it. I don't think so. And moving on finally to the Battle Tempered, this also pretty useless. Still will be able to increase your damage from 10% to 12% and give you a bit of a shield. That shield magnitude is going from 10 to 12 per stack. So again, minuscule bonuses there, and yeah. These last two here, Living Hex and Battle Tempered, are probably the most useless out of all the combat enchantments, and I would generally avoid them. But I guess I could put Battle Tempered over here because it actually has a damage bonus, and we should be getting a total healing one. Otherwise, that is all of the combat enchantments. Just wanted to cover those. If you are quickly interested in, say, the bonus enchantments, if you were to upgrade those to the maximum, movement speed will be 18%, up from 15%. And then your just recharge speed will be 6%. And action point bonus will be 6%. Gold gain will go to that 12%. And stamina, unfortunately, will only go to the 6%. What is interesting though is the companion enchantment will go from like 150 companion bonus damage to 180% companion bonus damage. So we'll see striker companions dealing even more damage. Again, we can upgrade that right there. The cost is exactly the same with any of the enchantments, and I've covered those in previous videos, along with the fact that, unfortunately, all of the enchantments have to be bound before you can upgrade them. You can see every single celestial enchantment is bound to your character. You cannot transfer it between other characters. You cannot put it in the bank and switch it over. You upgrade it on one character, that's it, done. You have to upgrade it on another character, a separate enchantment, if you want that there. So that'll be like upgrading the lightning flash on every single damage dealing character you have separately. To make it bound, you have to trade it in right here. You make it account wide, then you claim that mythic enchantment on all your characters, and then you can upgrade them from there. It's not the worst thing, at least compared to, say, if they made the enchantments not bound, right? If you could upgrade an unbound combat enchantment to Celestial, and you couldn't make Celestial enchantments account wide, like we can't now, then I would be better off getting a whole new set of enchantments from green, upgrading them all, rather than, say, using my current set of mythics, which I would have traded in. So there's two sides there. Players who never bounded them are going to be pissed off that they are now forced to bound them to upgrade, and players who already had them bound are just going to be annoyed that, yeah, you can't make the Celestials account wide. Again, there may very well be an update coming to that changes things and the devs bring some clarity to what's up, but so far there has been no news, none whatsoever. We'll see when the new update comes to preview, maybe next week, if anything changes, and I'll let you guys know. Once again, another massive thank you to all of these channel members for their added support, and we'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.